On the way out. And
Verstappen on the inside of Vettel, they have touched.
Max.
Fiat's gone into Norris, and they're out of the race. Down that back straight, Ricciardo goes for it from a long way back. This would be sensational if he makes it, and do you know what? He has made it. Waiting, and they've got this absolutely spot on. Almost contact there, as Bottas has to go wide, and Fiat slips in on the inside of the two.
After the unpredictable race we had in Australia last week, this week the Chinese Grand Prix came up with a very different scenario where strategy and tyre wear were the real stars of the show. So I'll dive right in and go through what my key thoughts were following the Chinese Grand Prix. I think one of the best things so far this season has been the racing between the rookies. And as the Chinese Grand Prix took place on International Bear Day, what better place to start than Ollie Bearman? Bearman was definitely one of the stars of the show today. Plenty of overtaking, good tyre management, and those little chows on the way past. In contrast with the Bearman, we've got Jack doing, who at times, especially when he was defending against Hajar late on in the race, was driving like prime Frank Drebin. Liam Lawson, who despite all his efforts just can't seem to be able to get anything out of that Red Bull car or be anywhere near the level of Max Verstappen. So another tough day, started 20th from the pit lane, didn't really make any impact on the race. As for the rest of the rookie drivers though, Antonelli, another great race, started P8, finished P8, but just went about his business quietly, and another solid result for the Mercedes driver. I think Hajar was unlucky, looked pretty good. That Racing Bull car seems to be pretty competitive this year, however the strategy for them wasn't quite right. Taking a two-stopper, which ultimately didn't pay off, and got stuck behind Frank Drebin. Although Bortoletto didn't finish particularly high, beat his teammate, which is all he can ask for in the car that doesn't look that competitive. Right, now to the front of the grid. That McLaren is an absolute rocket ship. With Piastri bringing it home P1 and Norris P2, Piastri is literally the coolest guy to ever come out of Australia. And I know Norris was holding on to on the last lap, but I think without that long, ever-growing brake pedal issue that he had, it would have been a much closer finish with Piastri towards the end. We're only 2 races into the season, but the McLaren looks absolutely on fire. Without the rain in Australia last week, we could have been looking at consecutive P1 and P2 finishes for McLaren. The rest of the field look like they've got some dramatic catching up to do to be anywhere near competitive this year. Mercedes and Russell, who I feel has gone under the radar the last 2 races, and has picked up 2 podiums, so it's strange to say really, but the consistency is definitely there. They are there to pick up the scraps if anything goes wrong, which is evident today, especially with Norris having an issue towards the end of the race. George Russell tracked him down, was nearly on the back of him by the end of the race. I think another lap and he would have been past him quicker than you could say Toto Wolff. Antonelli, 2 race starts, 2 points finishes, a great move on Hamilton last week in Australia, a good start today. The guy's an absolute racer, he's definitely the real deal.
As we look at Mike Crack on the pit wall.
A real quiet start for Max Verstappen today. First half of the race didn't really have anything, wasn't really anywhere, but as soon as the car got a little bit lighter, as fuel started to burn down, he started to reveal some of the pace he had. He caught Leclerc, although he did have a broken front ring, was able to catch him and pass him. Looked like he was going to get Hamilton before that, but then Hamilton dived into the pits for some new tyres but couldn't really make any impression on Verstappen. Same as previous years, Verstappen seems to be able to get everything out of that Red Bull car that it has to offer, but the second driver always seems to struggle, and that has been the case today, with Lawson getting nowhere near Verstappen. I have to say that I'm really disappointed in Ferrari today. Having won the sprint race, I thought they would be super competitive, but it just didn't turn out to be the case. Leclerc definitely had more pace than Hamilton, particularly in the middle part of the race, but however they were just so far away from Russell and the 2 McLarens. Despite Hamilton picking up the fastest lap of the race, that was purely based on the fact that he came in for tyres at an optimal time. The checkered flag wasn't the end of the drama today, however, with Pierre Gasly, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton all being disqualified after the race.
I am stupid.
Pierre Gasly and Leclerc's car were underweight, and Lewis Hamilton had excessive wear to the skid plank on his car. My final thoughts. Not a stellar race today, not like the one we had last week in Australia, but a race nonetheless where teams had to manage what they had, and that's where the drivers really shone through, and the McLaren drivers did a really good job of that today. The Racing Bulls, Haas and Williams all seem to be competitive on their day with some good pace in them cars and good drivers, so that should see some good racing coming forward. Next up, Japan. Japan is a track that's hosted some real classics over the years, so with a bit of luck, we might be in for one again.